Om Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. Okay, we stopped in the Shloka 12. Ye chaiva satvika bhava rajasah tamasascha matta eveti tan vidhi natvam teshu natvaham teshu te mayi. Ye chaiva satvika bhavah rajasah tamasascha matta eveti tan vidhi natvam teshu natvaham teshu te mayi. That's Vyasa's diction. And those which are sattvika bhavas and rajasas, so that means sattvic and rajasic bhavas. Bhava is the state of consciousness or being or becoming, let us say, sattvic becomings and rajasic becomings. And those which are tamasic, I can add even, matta eveti tan vidhi. They are all coming from me. Natu aham teshu, but I am not in them. Te mayi, they are in me. He will repeat this formula several times, that the whole world is in him, not he is in the world. This is something which is commented several times by Sri Aurobindo and also has to be understood by us in philosophical terms, that the whole world is actually diminishing of the divine, as it were, in some way. So the whole world is like a bubble within the sun. Yeah? It is something that we do not see, but in the Vedas we see this, that below the darkness, the deepest darkness, we find the luminous sun. So how come? If you go down, down, down into the deepest darkness, as Sri Aurobindo says, dig into that infinite rock of inconscient, and then when you break through from there, there is a supreme light is rising. This is the secret of the Veda, that wherever you go, you may go up, you may go down, you may go in, everywhere you find the luminous sun, the divine presence. Yeah. So it is. It looks like it is a different, as if different consciousness. In the Veda, they speak about two suns or two poises of the sun. Yeah? So the sun was stolen or taken by Rakshasas and Asuras and was hidden within the subconscious cave. That is the secret of the Veda. So the sun was hijacked, as it were. The light, the supreme light, was located within the darkness, from where this kind of rising of evolution is taking place, because there is within the darkness, there is the light. If you remember in Savitri, Sri Aurobindo says, because he is there, the inconscient does its work. Because he is there, the world forgets to die. So there is someone there within the darkness who sustains all the process of becoming. And that's actually here in the same statement is implied. Natu aham teshu, I am not in them, but they are in me. So the whole world is within the divine. And when we speak about two suns, one is above, another is below, these two major poles of the divine between which we are developing. This is the heaven and earth, let us say in Vedic terms, two luminous firmaments, Rodasi, there is a special term for them, Rodasi, luminous firmaments, foundations, two luminous foundations. That's amazing. How intuitive is language? Language could be. Sri Aurobindo speaks about these two luminous foundations as equal and one. We don't see it because we are in this kind of hierarchy of earth below and heaven above, but truly speaking, in the supramental, they are one and the same. The power and consciousness are one and the same. They got split, and this hierarchy appeared to us as if something is above and something is below, but it is only a manner of manifesting the divine in the most with the idea of becoming many, infinitely many, uniquely many in every possible physical way. So physicality is that last portion of multitude creation, where there is no repetition. And it's quite interesting because everything what is revealed in time and space is unique because it occupies a particular space in a particular time, which no other matter occupies. Yeah? So material manifestation allows this infinite variety, because nothing is occupying the same space and the same time anymore. So that's kind of spreading in time and space all the infinite varieties of the divine. And all this, it looks like a heavy part and a lighter part, more conscious, less conscious to us being within. But for him, it is actually that enterprise which he started with his Bahusyam, may I be many. He wanted to be many, so he did it. And he did it within himself.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Why does he say, I am not in them?
Yeah, they are in me. Well,
Yeah.
just he is the Purushottama, yeah? The Supreme. Everything, the whole creation with Sat Chitananda and Manas, Prana and Annam is in him. Being and non-being are his two poises, yeah? Which he can be and he can be not. And he is neither of these. So just look at it. It's a marvelous statement in a way. I see it as the world is manifested within the divine. Yeah? And this double sun, which we are talking, I didn't finish it, this heaven and earth, as actually one sun, only we don't see it. Yeah? It is that one supreme sun, which we will, if we look down, we will see sun there hidden within the darkness. And if we look up, we will see the sun transcendental, which was never manifested, as it were. And so this sun from below is rising as Agni, yeah? As son of Rudra. That sun below is Rudra, let us say, and that sun above is Vishnu. And from above, the lightning of Indra is coming down. I'm speaking in Vedic language. So Indra is reaching out, breaking through our ceiling and reaching to our manifestation here, where there is many manifested. And Agni is rising from below, bringing this supreme power consciousness, reaching to heavens and joining the Indra's lightning. And when Indra and Agni join, when Shiva and Vishnu, when these two suns become one, when Surya and Agni become one on the ground of Vayu, third Vayu, Agni, there are three Agnis, Agni, Vayu and Surya. When they become one, then the sacrifice is fulfilled and the transformation is taking place. So this is the vision of transformation, of constant recharging of the manifestation with the spirit, and progress and development and time and space, constant movement forward, because he is infinite being. And that infinity of his being can be expressed only in these terms of constant movement forward and change. There is no other way for him who is one to express himself in many if he would not constantly move. I know I'm going around and around because to cover this for the mind is nearly impossible. I, I feel intuitively what I want to say, but there is never time enough to really finish the thought that it would be held together. Once in a while it happens with the help of grace, but
Can I say something? Can I say something?
yes, please.
For me, when in this statement, like I'm not in them, they that are in me, is I can use an example of the transpersonal and transhumanism. Is some people thinks the consciousness is a product of the brain, and I think we are agreed the brain is a consequence of the consciousness.
Absolutely, yes.
I think we can
Very
use
good.
this example in this statement. If you can see.
Very nice, absolutely. So the everything which is manifested is the result of him and not otherwise. Yeah, not that it was there and he entered it and started to do something with it, regardless what it was. No, it is him. It is his. Yeah, it is in him. Well, to me, it says, truly speaking, more. It says that everything is in him. It means. There is a dynamism of becoming, yeah? But not he is in everyone. So not everything is, how to say, him yet, but everything is in him already and was always so. He is not yet in everything. So to say, Ishavasyamidam sarvam, if you remember the statement from Isha Upanishad, all this is for habitation by the Lord. And many people translate wrongly this Vasyam as if all is inhabited by the Lord. That is the translation by Shankaracharya, not translation, but explanation, that all is already inhabited by the Lord. It's not true. All is to be inhabited by the Lord. That is true. And that Vasyam participle futurum passive voice. It is participle future tense passive voice, to be inhabited. It's not inhabited, it's not past tense passive voice. And that is something which is overlooked. Yeah? He is not yet in everything, and that creates the dynamism of becoming. But everything is in him, and that is the truth. It's an amazing statement. Yeah, it requires dwelling and meditating upon. All right. If you have something to clarify or you always interrupt. We just start talking because I am not really following who is, cannot see everyone even.
I want to introduce something.
Yeah.
When we are studying with this base, the base of these scriptures and ancient scriptures and knowledge, it's difficult to put in context the big data, all of this kind of it's not materialism, it's not nature. Maybe it's only
It's consciousness. Yes.
What is big data here? How we can use, because when we say there is no possible to be two bodies or two materials in the same time and space. But what about big data? What is happening with this new element in our nature? Because it's a new element, indeed.
Yeah, well, most probably, if you go deeper into the quantum realm and even deeper beyond into the microcosm, yeah, I think that the becoming smaller and smaller also has no end, as becoming bigger and bigger has no end. These are infinite ends, so to say. It's difficult to imagine that when we become smaller, there is also no end of becoming smaller. But I think now like this, that truly speaking, the infinity is in both ends. Yes, it's not something which rounds up at the end and there is the wall or the end of the story. There is no end of the story, of the space and time. There is no end. There are periods. Yeah? There are periods which we measure with mind, and that's why they are called manvantaras. The periods of connected to mano, to some kind of mental formation or creation. But otherwise, there was no beginning or end, as Mother says, of this creation. So we speak in terms of beginning because our mind wants to measure it out. But that beginning was and is always there, as it were. I know it sounds weird, but Mother says that on supramental level, if you look at the creation, creation is being created constantly and being destroyed every moment. It comes into being and ends. So we have a sense of uninterrupted existence here because there it is constantly being created. And I know our mind is not capable of holding this because it is operating differently within time and space. It thinks in terms of time and space. So it was formed by time and space. So
Vladimir,
yes.
So I really would like to expand my understanding to understand this, but that's not what's happening for me. What I'm hearing in it is that because the creation is ongoing creating, then he will inhabit all of that. But from the physics that I understand and life as I understand it, is that he already has to be in everything.
Everything is.
And will be in everything that's created. So maybe that's that translation thing, but still how it lives in me is that it's impossible for me to wrap my head around how can the creator not be in everything that's created. It has to be that way for me.
I understand. That's a paradox. It's a paradoxical statement. Yes, Marta.
Robert and I have two things to say about it.
Yeah.
First of all, Robert's going to read something, but I had this thought that perhaps Krishna is speaking as the Purushottama, and the Purushottama cannot be contained within all beings because it's so much vaster than what we are, our consciousness. So perhaps it means that. But
yeah,
Robert has something to offer.
This is a commentary on Sri Aurobindo's own words about this particular sloka, and he says, in a sense, that means the divine.
You can read from here also, who wants to read. Go ahead.
In a sense, he must evidently be in them, otherwise they could not exist. But what is meant is that the true and supreme spiritual nature of the divine is not imprisoned there. They are only phenomena in his being, created out of it by the action of the ego and the ignorance. So that's what I understand, that he's He's there, but he's not contained in there. He's not limited by that.
Mm.
Thank you. Thank you. That helps.
Okay. I'm kind of leading to the same thought, but somehow not reaching it. The point is here that everything which is becoming is changing constantly, yes, and leaving behind the form and taking another form and constantly moving forward. And in that sense, it did not yet arrive at the Bahusyam, yeah, to become many in the form of being. In the form of becoming, yes, but in the form of being, it is not yet him totally. Yeah? So that's why the becoming is taking place. The immortality about which Vedas speak is that arrival at supramental manifestation would be the arrival where the form may stay without, we don't need to drop the form anymore, yeah? And it will endure the changes of time and space because it will be him, as it were. And by the way, Sri Aurobindo has the whole beautiful beginning, if you remember, of the adoration of the Divine Mother in Savitri, the Canto 2 of Book 3. If you look into this, there he asks this question: but who had seen the body of the king? Yeah? Nobody had seen the body of the king yet. The king with capital K. So the body of the Lord, we didn't see him. He's not yet embodied. The whole integral yoga is rotating around this, that we are becoming the divine. Closer and closer we are tuning our instruments through becoming to be him. Yeah? And he's not yet totally here. It's a not wrong statement. It's a good statement, actually. It's paradoxical a bit, but it is a good one, because it is dynamically telling us that it's okay not to be him immediately, totally, but aspiration from here comes, constant aspiration to be him, to embody him, to realize him in everything. All this is for his habitation. Why it is said for his habitation and not inhabited by him? Yeah? This is exactly that paradoxical thought. And Sri Krishna solves here in a very simple, interesting manner, that all is in me, but not I am in all. Yet. This is the thing. And he wants to be in all. That is not said here, but it is implied. Maybe later. Maybe in some other Manvantara, in other Kalpa. I do not know. Maybe in this one. As Mother and Sri Aurobindo came to embody him, they were looking for this. Yeah? Not for him not being here. They wanted him to be here in this body. Mother invited even Shiva to come into this body and to do sadhana. He refused. Into this body? Never. Why? Because this body is inherited from the past evolution. It's not yet capable of holding the spirit. As a substance, not yet capable. Not because of Mother's consciousness is not. Mother's consciousness was totally capable of holding the spirit, but the substance which she inherited was still in the making. So he is not yet there. Well, at least I read it like this. Yeah, for me it makes this sense. More than metaphysical, it's a dynamic kind of unfolding evolutionary sense of becoming the divine. This is the constant sacrifice in the Vedas. Sacrifice inviting higher powers to transform this nature, to work upon it, to, like a dough, we have to work on it, yeah? Have to bring more and more light into it, make it more and more divine. Sri Aurobindo even uses this word diviner. Yeah, like diviner world, pairing it with less divine, a more divine world. And that makes sense, no?
But
I'm adding to this idea of why he is not here and all is in him, but not he is in all yet.
but Vladimir, sorry, if you say this like you are saying, you are accepting the rationalism, the dualistic, and I'm not agree with that.
Oh, of course, dualism, monism, I accept any instruments of the mind. If mind can help to explain it, yes, I will take it. But I don't depend on this dualism, or I'm not looking for it. I'm looking for understanding of what it means that he is not yet there. There where? In the body, in the substance, in the bones, in this hair, in everything. He is not yet totally there. He is partially there. But all this is for his habitation.
As my point of view, the idea I'm catching of the divine is the
Monism.
no, I think maybe yes.
Yeah, you take
The
monism that he is everywhere and everything, and this is normal.
It's the container. It's not the is not the content. It's the container.
Yeah, but this is great. That's what he says. He is the container. He is the container of the whole world. Yes, but
Right.
he is not contained yet by the world.
Limited.
Yeah. Yes, Gita.
No, I just said that he's with no boundaries. There's no limit to him. We are limited.
Right. We are him who is not yet himself totally. That's why we are limited. This is the whole game of it's just how to fool the mind, because the mind is always looking for either or, this equals that, this explains that. But truly speaking, it's one world. It is all in him, as he says, but he's not yet in all. He's somewhere more and somewhere less. In our soul, in our psychic being, he is much more present than in our mental or vital being, or our physical, for that matter, or in our surrounding consciousness, in stones and everywhere. All is in him, all is him, but he is not, as Purushottama, as the Supreme who wanted to be many, is not yet totally there. And most probably that distance of him from his manifestation creates this time and space continuum. That is the gap. You see, the gap is in between us. He is not one jammed into one being. We are separated in many beings. There is always a gap in time and space which is holding us in those positions. And now, in those positions separated, he wants to be inhabited. All is for his habitation. All these separate positions have to grow in his consciousness, staying uniquely, separately in their own formation. And there he is not yet totally available. Yeah? Another attempt of the mind to go around this difficult topic.
Well, and I'll jump in, and I apologize because I just jumped in. So I don't know the discussion before, but first, Siegfried, wow, there's lots of light around you. It's wonderful to be able to actually see you at midnight or whatever it is there. But the way I was seeing it too, as Gita Shri was saying, is it's his journey that we get to be part of, right? And so he is discovering, it's a process, it's not done. He is discovering all his facets, all his multiplicities, all the aspects of his personality. And so he's not quite, as Vladimir said, he's not quite there yet because there's so much more to discover and evolve and unfold in front of us. So again, I'm not quite sure where I jumped in, but I think we're on this journey with him, and it's not complete yet until he gets to experience in full his fullness in everything around us, right? Us, ourselves, our plants, our animals, and we're the instruments of that journey. So we get to be on that journey as his instruments and to help him rediscover his full self in all its entirety. So wherever that fits or doesn't fit.
It fits very well.
Also, I feel we are so divided. Human beings and all, we are so divided. So when there is unity, when finally we'll all come together and be one, then maybe he'll be in everything in us.
Yeah, it would be much better if he would be united, yes. It would be easier for his power of consciousness to go through all these individual formations and to hold them together and to manifest himself through our mind and vital and physical. Yeah. But once we become very egoistic and we insist on our own way of looking at things, disregarding others, not seeing in others the divine. Yeah, yesterday I read such a beautiful quotation of the mother. She says the divine is everything. Not in everything, but yeah, she says in everything actually. The divine is in everything, in what we consider to be precious for us and in what we throw away as garbage. So if you see that that whatever we consider to be the divine is a very relative kind of selection, yeah, which is useful for us now in this moment of time. If you give an iPhone to, I don't know, to the monkey, it may find it very interesting, by the way, maybe not to the monkey, to somebody else that would not find any use of it. Yeah, it would be just a stone for no reason. So it's an interesting topic, yes. What is becoming the divine? Why becoming? Why all this is for his habitation? What does it really mean? Why it starts the whole Isha Upanishad? All this is for habitation by the Lord. It is by him it is to be inhabited. It is by him it to be worn as a garment. He has to put all the world onto himself as his luminous garment, yeah? And shine through it. It has to be his house, his home, everywhere. Everything in this world is to become his home or him. But it is in the process of becoming. It is not yet done. Otherwise, we would be in heaven already, all of us. There would be always constant unity in diversity. Okay, we can take next shloka. Tribhirch gunamayaich bhavaich ebhich sarvamidam jagat mohitam nabhi janati mam ebhyaf param avyayam. And here it is exactly what we were talking and what Robert and Marta brought. So tribhich gunamayaich bhavaich, by three bhavas, by three becomings, let us say, made of three gunas, sarvamidam jagat mohitam. All this world is bewildered.
Are you on the right? We're seeing 12. Is that what you're on?
13.
Okay, we're just seeing 12 right now.
Yeah, because the translation is on another page, yes. I'm just reading from Sanskrit first. Okay, here it is. Tribhir gunamayach bhavach, by three bhavas made of three gunas, all this world, sarvamidam jagat mohitam, bewildered. Nabhijanati mam ebhyaf param avyayam. And the one is not distinguishing, or let us see how Sri Aurobindo is bewildered and does not recognize me, the supreme beyond them and imperishable. The world cannot see the divine. By these three kinds of becoming, which are of the nature of the gunas, the whole world is bewildered and does not recognize me, supreme beyond them and imperishable. That's the answer, actually, to what all our search, how to formulate that particular thing, that the world is in him and not he is in the world. Because if he is there, he is totally aware of himself. Yeah? And the world is not, and we are not aware of him even. And many people are not aware of anything but their own needs. And then, Daivi Yesha Guna Mai Maya Mama Maya Duratyaya. Now he explains why it is so. Mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. Daivi Yesha, this divine Gunamayi made of gunas, Mama Maya, my power of creation, let us say, my Maya, Duratyeya, very difficult to overcome. Mam evaye prapadyante, but those who come to me, who find refuge in me, Mayam etam tarantite, they cross over this Maya. Sri Aurobindo does not translate Maya as illusion, and here, because he has his reasons. Because in the Vedas, Maya is not an illusion. Yeah? It's a creative force. It's a creatrix of all the forms in this time and space. Of course, that is, we can look at it as an illusion because it creates that divided consciousness which is hiding through gunas the appearance of the Lord in manifestation. So one can look at it as an illusion. I prepared the whole passage for Maya from Sri Aurobindo, from Life Divine, by the way, if you want to look at it, why it is this Maya. This is my divine Maya of the gunas, and it is hard to overcome. Those cross beyond it who approach me. So only those who approach the divine can overcome this Maya. But how? Sri Aurobindo speaks about this in the Life Divine. And here maybe one more for Maya, just to conclude with Maya. Namam dushkritino mudhah prapadyante nara dhamaha mayeya paharita jnana asuram bhavam ashritah. The evildoers, dushkritinach, attain not to me. Namam prapadyante. Souls bewildered, mudhah, basically bewildered, low in the human scale, naradhamaha. For their knowledge is reft away from them by Maya, Mayaya apahrita jnana, whose knowledge, self-realization, is taken from them by force, by Maya. Asuram bhavam ashritah. They resort to the nature of being of the asura. They come to the asuric nature. Now we come to the asuric nature, and that is quite interesting. So the asuric nature is a nature of self-assertion and self-fulfillment and self-consideration. And it's me, it's about me, it's my life. This is that asuric nature. It's not the divine nature. The divine nature is self-giving, sacrifice, constantly loving and giving oneself. And asuric is sustaining oneself, how to sustain this being separate from others. I have to survive first, and then I will be useful for others. Then I will be generous. Then I will be good. But I have to survive first. I have to sustain myself. I cannot destroy it. Yeah? I have to live separate life, wealthy, healthy life, to be useful for others and to others. So this is a valid consideration for the creation, I think. And it is made like this. Yeah? But it is also bewildering us and making us unaware of our divine nature. So we have two natures. We have the surface, unaware nature, separated, yeah, self-considered, and we have nature of the inner being, which is giving oneself constantly to the divine. We have two natures within ourselves, the divine and asuric. But they are bewildered by this Maya. So would you like to look into the Maya, or shall we look what Sri Aurobindo says? Or
Yes.
you have something else to say, please, before we go? I prepared the whole thing.
Let's look at it.
Okay, this is my article from long ago. I was so happy to discover it. I took it from the Life Divine. The lower present Maya, the present and deluding mental Maya, Sri Aurobindo says
I don't think we're seeing this. Is there
Oh.
something we're supposed to be following?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you, Ray.
Here it is. How to overcome this Maya? You know, Sri Aurobindo says, he has the whole passage. This power was known to the Vedic seers by the name of Maya. Maya meant for them the power of infinite consciousness to comprehend, contain in itself, and measure out, that is to say, to form. For form is delimitation. Delimitation means making the form out of it. Name and shape out of the vast illimitable truth of infinite existence. How to put into shape and name, into the meaningful relations to others in the particular formation, that which is immeasurable, illimitable truth of the infinite existence. It is by Maya that static truth of essential being becomes ordered truth of active being, or to put it in more metaphysical language, out of the supreme being in which all is all without barrier of separative consciousness, emerges the phenomenal being in which all is in each, and each is in all, for the play of existence with existence, consciousness with consciousness, force with force, delight with delight. Now, if you catch this, you understand what Maya is. Sri Aurobindo is so profound. Yeah? So the barriers were created. Yeah? So in the Supreme Being in which all is all, one simple formula, 1 equals 1, without barrier or separative consciousness, emerges the phenomenal being in which all is in each, and each is in all, for the play of existence with existence. So this play of all in each and each in all is concealed at first from us by mental play or the illusion of Maya, which persuades each that he is in all, but not all in him, and that he is in all as a separated being, not as a being always inseparably one with the rest of existence. Afterwards, we have to emerge from this error into the supramental play or the truth of Maya, where the each and the all coexist in the inseparable unity of the one truth and the multiple symbol. Now, how to overcome? And he gives the prescription, and this is something amazing. The lower, present and deluding mental Maya has first to be embraced, then to be overcome. For it is God's play with division and darkness and limitation, desire and strife and suffering, in which he subjects himself to the force that he has come out of himself, that has come out of himself, and by her obscure suffers himself to be obscured. So it is this spiritual overcoming. The divine is everything. It has to be embraced first. I have to recognize the divine in every bit and piece and being. And this is one part of overcoming Maya. And that is Buddhistic overcoming. That is that monism which Siegfried is always bringing forward. To see the divine as everything in this world. And it is true. Everything is him. It couldn't come from elsewhere. There is nothing but him. So all the beings, all the things, all the pebbles, all the books, all the animated and unanimated objects are him only. So to overcome Maya, we need that half spiritual view that he is everywhere and everything. Oneness, singularity, that's also the objection by Charles was there. How come? It can't be that he is not everything. Yes, it can't be. He is everything. Everything is in him, as he says in that puzzling statement. And then the other half, it's very interesting. That other Maya, concealed by this mantle, has to be overpassed, then embraced. It's a reverse position. For it is God's play of the infinities of existence, the splendors of knowledge, the glories of force mastered, and the ecstasies of love illimitable, where he emerges out of the hold of force, holds her instead, and fulfills in her illumined that for which she went out from him at the first. Now, I separated these two. It's quite interesting. So it's not a spiritual look. It's totally different now. It has to be overpassed and then embraced, not embraced and then overcome. So what is this movement? This movement is the psychic being movement. Psychic being is not accepting anything but the divine. It rejects everything which is not the divine yet. It is that becoming the divine which we try to speak today, that he is not yet fully here. We have to overcome him not being there yet, and then to embrace him as he is there. So I put these two, look at this. We clearly see two movements of Maya which have to be dealt with differently. And Sri Aurobindo speaks about two different attitudes we have to have. One is the spiritual attitude from above the head, and the other is from the heart, psychic. And they are very different attitudes. And if they are combined, then we can overcome Maya. If we can do both simultaneously. So, Maya, as his play with division and limitation, where the Supreme subjects himself finally to the darkness of his own inconscient force and becomes obscure. It refers to the involutionary stage of creation as the fall of the first supreme emanations and the plunge of the Supreme into the darkness of inconscient. the sacrifice of the Purusha, the holocaust of the Divine Mother, Atmanatmanam Abhisam Vivesha, by himself he entered himself, Bahusyam of Taitiriya, may I become many, Sadvitiyam Aichat, another statement, he wanted another, he wanted another. What can be better said? So he wanted to have some otherness of self, as Sri Aurobindo says in Savitri. He was looking for himself, to find himself as the other and to have with him relations. So this is what created all multiplicity of all his beings and all the obscurity and all the fall of the emanations. And the second movement of Maya is evolutionary, when he is emerging from that where he plunged into the darkness of inconscient. And this emergence, slow emergence, is totally different movement. You have to overcome which is not the divine. We have to remove the obstacles. We have to restrain the movements of the darker consciousness in order to find the divine element and embrace it within the nature. And this is the evolutionary psychic movement of consciousness. Look how beautifully it is laid out for us. It's the whole vision of integral yoga, basically, with these two major influences. One is from above the head, Sri Aurobindo's influence, the descent of force from above. Another is Mother's psychic force from within the heart. And that's why they are two avatars in one yoga, as it were.
Vladimir, I'm just wondering, like, without this Maya, like, I had the thing, like, this Maya is that illusion that's been created by the Supreme for enjoying the multiplicity of his manifestation. So if we don't, like, Maya is somewhere recognized as darkness, but I think it's also an important play. Otherwise, how would the multiplicity of the creation be enjoyed, and the different plays, the different relationships, the different,
Absolutely.
like, one-to-one thing, like, how would it be enjoyed without Maya?
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. That's why he calls my divine Maya is doing all this. And Sri Aurobindo gives such a good term here. Look at this, that how it created all this, that Maya, where each and all, yes, wait a minute, where was this statement? I had to underline it. Where each, yes, where all is in each and each is in all. That's how she created the multiplicity. Not all equals all. Where all is in each and each is in all. This is her game. This is how she did it. And we can describe it as two stages of creation, as Mother describes. One is fall of the first emanations, and then plunge of the divine into the depth of inconscient, and beginning of evolution, rising from, in the separated formation of the being, rising of the divine from within. Yeah? And these two movements create Maya. Maya is creating these two movements, and by them the multiplicity is created within the divine. Profound. I think this was the greatest discovery for me. After that, I have no questions about Maya. I understand why there are two different attitudes. One is spiritual, from above the head, and one is from the heart, and how they differ and why they are complementary and both are needed. And that's what Isha tries to say, that neither vidya nor avidya can capture him. Not even both, because he's beyond both. It's by both as instruments, by these two, yes, by these fallen emanations into this multiplicity, infinite multiplicity, where the consciousness is lost, and by this rising of the divinity in every bit and piece of this multiplicity, that his awareness, or him, we can have a glimpse of him. And not by either. It's not enough. None of these is enough. If we look only spiritually, into the blind darkness, and to those who accept this world as only vidya, into the greater darkness, or avidya, into the greater who accept this world as only vidya. So if we accept that all is the divine, we enter into the even greater darkness, if it is the only one. But if we accept that, and plus to it that the divine is emerging in everything, and we accept nothing but the divine emerging in everything, psychic attitude, then we will be able to overcome Maya. Then we will have a glimpse of his supreme consciousness working here out in this manifestation. I hope it's not too much. But I wanted us to have this once on this Maya, because even if it is too much, keep it for the future. Come back to it. This is a puzzle. This is a paradox of the creation, which Sri Aurobindo solved in the Life Divine. He gives the total precise description within mental language. Incredible. And I immediately understand why he speaks about Shankaracharya in Advaita approach as too mental. It's a mental approach. You can see diluting mental Maya. You cannot, it's really a mental approach. That everything is the divine. It's a very easy mental statement, which gives you some kind of ease, yeah? To look at everything as the divine. So what can we do? Yeah, it's the divine in this form, in that form. Yeah.
But to actually see the divine in all, I mean, it's more than just mental, it's an experience, right? So you just can't say, oh, that's mental, that's nice to say, we embrace that, but to experience that is a whole nother level, way beyond the mental. And that is an experience that can be had.
Yeah.
So I don't want to discount that, I guess is where I'm going.
Yeah. No, I'm not discounting. I'm saying that I understood why Sri Aurobindo said that it is too mental, because it cannot lead you to the total experience. Yeah, it gives you to the partial experience, half of the truth, which is at the end does not lead you to the supreme consciousness. You are becoming somewhere stuck in a particular formation of discarding his manifestation, which was not the purpose, not the case. Yeah? He wanted to be many, and that's why we are here. So if we are running away from this manifestation, there is a way to run away. Yes. Escape brings not the victory and the crown. So this is another kind of line. So we can escape, we can jump into that divine abyss, glad divine abyss, without looking back. But it is an escape.
You're saying seeing the divine in everything is an escape?
It leads us immediately to this Advaitic vision that Brahman Satyam, Jagan Mithya.
But it's, as Sri Aurobindo would say, it's valid as an experience, and it's a step on the way. So the harm is to stop there and not to go the next. But it's a valid and necessary experience.
Absolutely.
To move on to the next.
Absolutely. I'm looking at it from the highest point of view now, not to you can, my words are not really reaching to I'm not trying to be totally true in every statement I say, as Sri Aurobindo can do it, but I'm trying to reach to that central core meaning, how Maya can be overcome. This is not the way to overcome Maya. We fall into the blind darkness. This is what I want to say. And that, even psychic, is not the way to overcome Maya, because psychic needs the support of that unborn self, which views the divine in everything, everywhere. It needs it. Otherwise, it will not be able to grow. and to embrace the whole world. so, so both are needed. Anyhow, that's. If you have some other thoughts or something to say, please go ahead. We have Sangeet with us, we have Dolan, we have Charles. Charles is totally silent now. It's probably too many words sounding the same, yes?
I guess if you want me to speak up, this is Sangeet. How
Yes.
do you, this is unrelated, but how do you open these centers? It's belated for me, the one above the head and one in the heart. Any techniques? How successful have you been, or anyone in the group has been with that?
There is a technique of meditation, the conversations with Pavitra. If you want to know how to meditate according to Sri Aurobindo, everything is prescribed.
Oh.
How to concentrate about the head, how to calm the mind, how to receive the force from above, how to tune oneself to this force and allow it to work in your adhar, first in your mind, a higher mind, then in your lower centers, then in your heart, then in your body, up to the feet it can descend. Sri Aurobindo has a beautiful poem also describing this how this light came down into my brain, you know, and came into my feet, you know, already changed the feet, that you become the divine even there in your lowest physical formation. So this descent of light from above is this overcoming Maya from above, looking at everything as the divine, is totally justified by experience. If there is a psychic contribution of accepting only the divine in here, in manifestation, and allowing that force to descend, otherwise it would not come if the psychic would not call it and prepare the ground here. Without the psychic, that force cannot really come totally down, maybe partially in the higher centers.
Without the aspiration, right?
Yeah.
Without that, like you said, the call, the aspiration for it.
Yeah,
I don't know if we have that PDF from Parvita or not, but it's incredibly powerful. Even if you don't do the practice, it's set in there, just reading it is incredibly powerful. So I would strongly recommend it.
Yeah. If you have this book, if you don't, we can send to you by email. It's available in this format. And this was my first book of Sri Aurobindo, actually, practical book. In 1982, I got this book, Conversations with Pavitra, and it was like life-shifting, changing. I felt boom, solid presence, physically tangible. And then from there, all my life started. I realized that I need Sanskrit to know more about that, what is going on there. I wanted to understand things from original texts and what Sri Aurobindo comments on them. So the whole journey started with this book, by the way. It was more interest in the realization of the divine than to know metaphysics. Yeah? Metaphysics were just helpful. Look how helpful this view on Maya is. Our mind can understand what we are dealing with.
I would love to request the book.
Yes, sure. I will send our copy, but it's available on internet. But there are several translations. The best one is, of course, in French, original French, but it was translated, not bad translation, into English.
Would you be able to send it to all the recipients?
Sure, I will send to all of our.
Yeah, that would be nice. That we have to do that.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Okay, then we can stop
Thank
here.
you.
We are already 8 minutes over. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Namaste.
Namaste.
Yeah, thank you.